farmer took in a lost boy. Little did she know he was the son of the richest man in the United States. Sarah Miller was walking along the dirt road leading to her property when she heard soft crying coming from the bushes. Her first thought was to look for an injured animal. But as she got closer, she saw a small boy curled up among the plants, wearing expensive clothes that were dirty with mud and tears streaming down his face. The boy couldn't have been more than 8 years old and was clutching a remote control car to his chest that looked like it cost more than her monthly harvest. Sarah knelt down slowly, removing her straw hat so as not to scare him. "Hi, sweetheart. What are you doing out here all alone?" she asked in the gentlest voice she could muster. The boy looked up with frightened eyes, like a cornered animal. His clothes were designer. She could tell by the labels, but they were torn and dirty, as if he'd been running through the woods. I got lost," he murmured, wiping his nose with the back of his hand. Sarah glanced around. They were over 9 miles from the nearest town, and cars rarely passed through here. How had such a young child ended up in this place? "What's your name?" she asked, holding out her hand. "Ethan," he answered, hesitating before taking her hand. "Ethan, where are your parents?" The boy started crying harder, pressing the toy car to his chest. "I don't know. I ran away. They don't like me." Sarah's heart ached. She knew that kind of pain, the feeling of being unwanted. After 10 years of marriage without being able to have children, and another 5 alone after her husband left, she understood what it meant to feel rejected. "Come with me, let's go home. You need something to eat and to get cleaned up." Dear listener, if you're enjoying the story, don't forget to like and especially subscribe to the channel. It really helps those of us just starting out. Now, back to the story. Ethan hesitated, but hunger and exhaustion won out. He took Sarah's hand and walked beside her down the dusty road. Sarah's farm was simple, a white 2-bedroom house with a porch, surrounded by a small orange grove, and a pen with a few cows and chickens. "It's a nice place," Ethan said, and Sarah noticed he spoke differently, more refined than the local kids. Inside, she drew a warm bath and lent him clothes left behind by the neighbor's son. While Ethan washed up, Sarah heated chicken soup and sliced homemade bread. "Much better," she said when he reappeared, his hair clean and combed. Now she could see the boy's face more clearly. Big brown eyes, fair skin, delicate features. He definitely wasn't from an ordinary family. At dinner, Ethan ate politely, using his utensils correctly and thanking her with every spoonful. Sarah noticed he chewed slowly, as if he wasn't used to home-cooked meals. "Ethan, where are you from?" The boy stopped eating and looked down. "Far away, really far. Your parents must be looking for you." "No," he answered too quickly. "They don't care. Dad just works, and Mom isn't with us anymore." Sarah understood. The boy had lost his mother, and his father was absent. She knew this situation well. She'd gone through something similar in her own childhood. "Why did you run away?" Ethan fiddled with the toy car on the table before answering. "Because I was being sent away, to a school really far away, and I don't want to go." "A school?" "A boarding school. Dad said it was for my own good, but I know it's because he doesn't want to see me anymore." The boy's voice cracked on the last words, and Sarah stood up to hug him. Ethan clung to her like a lifeline in the ocean. "You can stay here tonight. We'll talk more tomorrow, okay?" Ethan slept in the guest room, but Sarah stayed up late, thinking about the situation. Obviously, the child's family had money, but there was something odd about the story. Why hadn't any cars passed by the road looking for him? Why were there no sirens or search helicopters? The next morning, Sarah woke up to noise in the backyard. She found Ethan feeding the chickens, with a smile on his face she hadn't seen the day before. "Do you know how to take care of animals?" she asked, surprised. "No, but it's easy. They just want food," he replied, tossing more corn on the ground. Sarah smiled. There was something touching about the simplicity with which he'd adapted to life on the farm. During breakfast, Ethan asked several questions about the property's routine, showing genuine curiosity. "Sarah, have you always lived here?" "I was born in this house. My parents had a bigger farm, but we lost part of the land when I was little." "Why?" Sarah hesitated. She didn't usually talk about it, but there was something in the boy's eyes that made her want to be honest. "My father made some bad deals, trusted the wrong people. By the time he realized, it was too late." Ethan nodded, as if he understood perfectly. "Dad always says you can't trust anyone. That's why he works so much. And you, do you miss him?" "I used to, now I don't know anymore." After breakfast, Sarah decided to go into town to buy some supplies and try to find out if there was any news about a missing child. Ethan begged to come along and she agreed. In town, they stopped first at Frank's little grocery store, where Sarah picked up basic supplies. Ethan hid behind her whenever other people approached, clearly nervous. "Miss Sarah, what a handsome boy," commented Margaret, the bakery owner. "Is he family?" "A little friend staying with me for a few days," Sarah replied quickly. On the way back to the car, they passed a newsstand. Ethan suddenly stopped, gripping Sarah's arm tightly. "Let's go," he whispered, his face pale. Sarah followed his gaze and saw a magazine with its cover facing them. She couldn't read it clearly, but there was a photo of a man in a sharp suit. "Ethan, who is that man?" "No one. Let's go, please." The fear in the boy's voice was real, and Sarah decided not to push. On the drive back, he stayed quiet, staring out the window and fidgeting nervously with his toy car. "Do you want to tell me what happened back there?" Ethan took a long time to answer. "That man in the magazine, he works with my dad. If he's looking, it means that your father is looking for you." "Yeah." Sarah pulled the car over and turned to him. "Ethan, you need to tell me the truth. Who is your father?" The boy started to cry. "Will you turn me over to him if I tell you?" "I won't do anything you don't want, but I need to know what we're dealing with." Ethan took a deep breath and looked at Sarah with teary eyes. "My dad is Richard Bennett, of Bennett Enterprises." Sarah felt like she'd been punched in the gut. Richard Bennett was known across the country as one of the wealthiest men in the United States. His company had businesses in everything from agriculture to technology, and she was taking care of his son. "Ethan, you're the heir to a fortune I don't want," he finished. "Dad always says it, that one day everything will be mine, but I just wanted him to play with me." Sarah needed a few minutes to process the information. She was caring for the son of the most powerful man in the country, who certainly had the resources to find him. But when she looked at Ethan, she saw only a frightened child who needed love. "Why did you really run away?" "Because I heard Dad on the phone. He said I was a problem, and that boarding school in Switzerland was the best solution. That I would stay away and he could work in peace. Maybe he didn't say it the way you understood." "I understood perfectly well," Ethan replied with a sadness that didn't suit his age. "Ever since Mom left, he barely looks at me." Sarah hugged the boy once more. No matter who his father was, Ethan was a child who needed love and attention. "Let's go home. We'll figure out what to do later." That afternoon, Sarah taught Ethan how to milk the cow. He was clumsy at first, but persistent. It was clear he'd never done manual labor before, but he tried hard to learn. "Why do you like doing these things?" he asked, struggling with the milk bucket. "Because it connects me to real life. When you care for animals, plant something. Watch it grow. You understand you're part of something bigger." Ethan stopped what he was doing and looked at her. "Dad always says we're different from other people, that we have special responsibilities. And do you believe that?" "I don't know. Sometimes I think we're just more alone." Ethan's answer touched Sarah deeply. She recognized in him the same loneliness she'd felt for years. Dear listener, if you're enjoying the story, don't forget to like and especially subscribe to the channel. It helps us a lot as we're just starting out. Now, continuing. 3 days passed without news. Ethan quickly adapted to the farm routine, waking up early to help with the animals and spending afternoons exploring the property. Sarah noticed he was a smart, curious child, asking questions about everything and showing an impressive ability to learn. "Sarah, did you never have children?" he asked one afternoon while they picked oranges. The question caught Sarah off guard. It was a painful subject, but Ethan's sincerity deserved an honest answer. I couldn't. My husband and I tried for many years, but where is he now? He left us. Said he couldn't keep trying and maybe it was better for each of us to go our own way. Ethan stopped picking oranges and moved closer to her. He was foolish. You're the best person I know. Sarah felt her eyes fill with tears. It had been years since anyone said something so kind to her. Thank you, sweetheart. Sarah, can I call you Mom? The request was like a sweet stab to Sarah's heart. It was everything she'd ever wanted to hear, but it came from a child who wasn't hers and whom she'd soon have to give back. Ethan. Just while I'm here. I know it's not forever. Sarah hugged the boy, feeling a connection she'd never experienced before. Of course you can. That night, while Ethan slept, Sarah had an unexpected visitor. Her old friend Robert, the sheriff from the neighboring town, appeared at her door with a worried expression. Sarah, I need to talk to you. She invited him in, served coffee, and braced herself for what was coming. There are men asking questions around here. Private investigators looking for a missing child. Sarah tried to keep her expression neutral. Oh? What kind of child? An 8-year-old boy, son of a wealthy family. They say he ran away from home a week ago. And why are you telling me this? Robert looked her straight in the eyes. Because I've known you for 30 years, Sarah, and I know when you're hiding something. Sarah sighed. Robert had always been too sharp for his own good. If I were taking care of a lost child, what would my legal obligation be? It depends on the circumstances. If the child is in danger at home, there are ways to protect him, but if it's just stubbornness, what if it's more complicated than that? Robert leaned forward. Sarah, who are we talking about? She hesitated before answering. Richard Bennett's son. The sheriff nearly dropped his coffee cup. Are you out of your mind? Do you know who that man is? He could ruin your life if he wanted to. He's just a father who doesn't know how to care for his own son. Sarah, this isn't a joke. Investigators are offering a $50,000 reward for information leading to the boy. The amount made Sarah choke. It was more money than she'd seen in years of work. And why are you telling me this? Because I trust you, and because if the boy is here, there must be a good reason. There is, she confirmed. He's running from a father who wants to send him to a boarding school in Switzerland because he can't handle him. Robert shook his head. Sarah, these wealthy families have their own problems. Maybe the father truly believes it's what's best for the boy, or maybe he's a coward who'd rather get rid of his son than learn to be a father. And you're going to decide that for them? The question echoed in Sarah's mind long after Robert left. Did she have the right to keep Ethan away from his family? But seeing him sleeping peacefully in the guest room with a smile on his face that hadn't been there when he arrived, she knew she was doing the right thing. The next morning, Ethan woke up restless. Sarah, I dreamed some men in black came to take me away. It was just a nightmare, sweetheart. But when they stepped outside to tend to the animals, they saw a black car parked at the entrance of the property. Ethan hid behind Sarah, trembling. Who are they? I don't know. Let's go inside and see what they want. The men approached. There were 2 of them, dressed in suits despite the heat. Clearly not from this rural area. Good morning, ma'am. We're private investigators. We're looking for a missing child. Sarah kept her voice steady. I haven't seen any children around here. One of the men showed a photo of Ethan. Are you sure? It's very important we find him. His family is desperate. I'm sure. If there were a lost child, someone in town would have told me. The men exchanged glances. Would you mind if we took a look around your property? I do mind. This is my home and you don't have a warrant. We can get one. Then come back when you do. After the men left, Sarah found Ethan hiding in the barn, crying. They're going to take me away, he sobbed. No, they won't, I promise. But they have more power than you. Dad always gets what he wants. Sarah hugged the boy, feeling the weight of responsibility on her shoulders. She was up against forces much bigger than herself, but she couldn't abandon Ethan. Sweetheart, maybe it's time we talk to your father. No, Ethan shouted. He'll send me away. What if I go with you? What if I explain how you feel? Ethan looked at her with hope. You'd do that? I'd do anything for you. That afternoon, Sarah made a decision that would change her life forever. She called the headquarters of Bennett Enterprises and asked to speak to Richard Bennett. Who may I say is calling? The secretary asked. Sarah Miller. I have information about his son. A few minutes later, a deep voice answered the phone. This is Richard Bennett. Who are you and what do you know about my son? My name is Sarah Miller. Ethan is with me, safe and cared for. Silence on the other end. Where are you? His voice was tense, controlled. Somewhere he feels wanted. Mr. Bennett, we need to talk. If you've done anything to my son, I've taken care of him. Something you don't seem to know how to do. Again, silence. What do you want? Money. The question cut deep. I want you to come here and talk to your son, alone. No bodyguards, no investigators. Just you. And why would I do that? Because if you don't, you'll lose your son forever. And this time it won't be to a boarding school in Switzerland. Sarah passed along the address and hung up, her heart racing. She had just challenged one of the most powerful men in the country. Now all she could do was wait for the consequences. Ethan was terrified when he heard about the phone call. He'll come with an army, he said, pacing back and forth in the living room. No, he won't. I told him he should come alone. And you think he'll listen? Sarah sighed. She wasn't entirely sure either, but it was a risk she had to take. Ethan, you need to promise me one thing. No matter what happens, you'll talk to him. You'll tell him how you feel. What if he doesn't want to listen? Then at least you'll have tried. 2 hours later, a helicopter landed in the field next to the house. Sarah and Ethan watched from the window as a tall man with graying hair and an impeccable suit walked toward the house. Even from a distance, the resemblance between father and son was unmistakable. He looks angry, Ethan whispered. He's worried. That's different. Sarah stepped outside to greet him, leaving Ethan inside. Mr. Bennett. Where's my son? He asked without preamble. First, some ground rules. No shouting, no threats. If you want to talk to Ethan, it has to be on his terms. Richard Bennett studied her for a moment. He was an imposing man with a commanding presence and piercing eyes. But Sarah also noticed the dark circles under his eyes and the tension in his shoulders. You know I could ruin your life with one phone call? You could try, but then you'd never see your son again. They stared at each other for a few seconds before Richard finally sighed. Fine. Where is he? Sarah led him inside. Ethan was sitting on the couch, hugging a toy car, clearly terrified. Hi, Dad, he said softly. Richard took a step toward his son, but stopped when he saw Ethan flinch. Ethan, are you okay? Did anyone hurt you? No one hurt me. Sarah took care of me. Richard looked at Sarah with an uncertain expression. Thank you, he finally said. Don't thank me yet. Sit down. You two need to talk. Dear listener, if you're enjoying the story, don't forget to like and especially subscribe to the channel. It helps us a lot as we're just starting out. Now back to the story. Richard sat in the armchair across from the couch but kept his distance. Sarah noticed he seemed genuinely uncomfortable, as if he didn't know how to act around his own son. Ethan, you scared me half to death. Why did you run away? Ethan glanced at Sarah for encouragement before answering. Because you were going to send me away. The boarding school is one of the best in the world. You'd have every opportunity. I don't want opportunities, Ethan burst out. I want to stay with you. The response clearly caught Richard off guard. Son, I work a lot. I don't have time to... For me, I know. Richard looked down at his hands and Sarah saw something break in his expression. That's not it. It's just, ever since your mother left us, I don't know how to be a father anymore. It was the first time Sarah had seen vulnerability in the powerful businessman. You could learn, Ethan said quietly. How? Ethan looked at Sarah again. Sarah taught me how to take care of the animals, how to plant things. She has time to talk to me. I could pay someone to teach you those things. It's not the same. Ethan replied, tears in his eyes. Sarah does it because she cares about me, not because she's paid to. Sarah decided to step in. Mr. Bennett, may I speak with you alone? They stepped out onto the porch, leaving Ethan inside. He's a brilliant boy, Sarah began. Smart, curious, affectionate. But he's withering inside because he doesn't feel loved. I love my son. Then why doesn't he know that? Richard ran a hand through his hair, messing up his perfectly styled look. Because I don't know how to show it. Jennifer always knew how to handle him. I just worked to give them my best. And when she was gone, I buried myself even deeper in work. It was the only thing I knew how to do. Sarah studied the face of the man before her. Beneath the facade of a successful businessman, she saw a lost and lonely man. You lost more than a wife. You lost your partner in raising Ethan. Yes, and I have no idea how to get my son back. Do you really want to send him to Switzerland? Richard hesitated. I thought it would be better for him, away from the pressure of being my heir, a place where he could just be a child. But away from you too. Yes, he admitted. I told myself it was better this way, that I wasn't good for him. Sarah pitied the man before her. He loved his son, but fear and insecurity were destroying their relationship. Mr. Bennett, may I make a suggestion? Go ahead. Why don't you stay here tonight? Have dinner with us. See how Ethan behaves here. Maybe you'll understand better what he needs. Stay here. He looked around as if the idea were absurd. Just one night, no phones, no meetings, just you and your son. Richard fell silent for a long moment. I don't know if I can. Ethan did, and he's 8. The remark made Richard smile for the first time since he'd arrived. All right, but I don't have any clothes. Ethan didn't either when he got here. We'll manage. When they went back inside, Ethan was looking out the window. Dad, are you leaving? Actually, Richard glanced at Sarah. I'm staying for dinner, if you want. Ethan's face lit up in a way Sarah had never seen before. Really, you're staying? I am, and tomorrow too, if you'll have me. Ethan ran to hug his father, who stiffened for a moment before returning the embrace. Can I show you the farm? Ethan asked excitedly. Of course. Sarah watched them walk out together, Richard still awkward but making an effort. It was a start. Dinner was tense at first. Richard clearly wasn't used to the simplicity of home-cooked food and the rural setting, but as Ethan shared stories of his adventures on the farm, his father began to relax. And then I tried milking the cow, but she didn't like me, Ethan said, laughing. She almost kicked me. You didn't get hurt, did you? Richard asked, concerned. No, Sarah showed me the right way after. Now I can do it. Really? You know how to milk a cow? Ethan nodded proudly. And I know how to take care of the chickens too, and plant things. Richard looked at Sarah with gratitude. Seems like you've learned a lot in just a few days. I have, and the best part is, Sarah has time to teach me. She's not always checking the clock. The remark was innocent, but Richard caught the hint. Ethan, do you remember when it was just the 3 of us? Before Mom got sick? Ethan's face fell. I remember. You used to play with me. We'd go to the park. I remember too. I miss those days. Why can't it be like that again? Richard swallowed hard. Because I'm afraid. Afraid of what? Of not being a good father to you. Of messing everything up. Ethan stood up and hugged his father. You won't mess up, I'll help you. Sarah felt her eyes well up, witnessing the moment. It was exactly what they both needed. Honesty and time. After dinner, Richard helped wash the dishes, clearly out of his element, but determined to pitch in. Ethan was in charge of drying, chattering about his days on the farm. Dad, do you want to see my room? Ethan asked. Sure. Sarah left them alone and went to set up a mattress in the living room for Richard. When she returned, she found father and son talking softly in the bedroom. Sarah, Richard called when he saw her. Thank you for taking such good care of him. No need to thank me. It's been a pleasure. No, I really mean it. You did in a week what I couldn't do in months. You showed him he's loved. He always was loved, Mr. Bennett. He just needed to feel it. That night, Sarah lay in bed thinking about the change she'd witnessed. Richard Bennett wasn't the cold monster she'd imagined. He was just a lost man, trying his best for his son without knowing how. The next morning, she woke to noise in the yard. Through the window, she saw Richard trying to help Ethan feed the chickens, clearly awkward but persistent. Ethan laughed at his father's attempts, but affectionately, not cruelly. "Good morning," she greeted as she stepped outside to join them. "Good morning, Sarah," they replied in unison. "How was your first night on the farm, Mr. Bennett?" "Unlike anything I've ever experienced," he admitted, "and necessary." At breakfast, Ethan asked a question that surprised everyone. "Daddy, can you buy a farm?" "I can. Why?" "So we can live here. Then you could work from home and I could take care of the animals." Richard exchanged glances with Sarah. "Ethan, my company is in the city. I can't just uproot everything." "But you're the boss. Can't you do what you want?" The child's simple logic made Richard smile. "It's not that simple, son." "Why not?" Ethan insisted. "You always say money fixes everything." "I say that. You do. When I want something, you buy it. When there's trouble at work, you pay to fix it." Richard fell silent, processing his son's words. "But some things can't be bought, Ethan." "Like what?" "Like time, like relationships, like trust." Ethan thought for a moment. "But you could choose to spend time with me instead of working so much." Again, the simplicity of the observation struck deep. Sarah watched Richard grapple with concepts he'd likely never considered. "You're right, son, I have choices to make." After breakfast, Richard asked to speak with Sarah privately. "I don't know how to thank you for what you've done." "No need to thank me. Ethan's a special boy." "He is, and I nearly lost him to pride and fear." "You didn't lose him, there's still time." Richard looked at Ethan playing with the chickens in the yard. "Sarah, can I make you an offer?" "What kind of offer?" "I want you to be Ethan's governess. Live with us, care for him, be the mother figure he needs. I'll pay any amount." Sarah shook her head. "Mr. Bennett, Ethan doesn't need a governess. He needs his father." "But I don't know how." "Learn. The same way he learned to care for the animals here." "What if I fail?" "You'll fail many times, all parents do. The difference is trying again." Richard fell silent, watching his son. "Can I ask you something else?" "Of course." "Would you buy this farm?" Sarah hadn't expected that. "What are you talking about?" "This property, is it for sale?" "No. Well, I have some debts, but..." "How much do you owe?" She hesitated. It was personal, but curiosity won. $200,000. The bank is threatening foreclosure. "What if I cleared your debt in exchange for you teaching us how to be a family?" "Mr. Bennett." "Richard. Call me Richard." "Richard, I don't want your charity." "It's not charity. It's an investment in my son's future. And mine." Sarah looked at Ethan chasing a chicken, laughing loudly. "What exactly are you proposing?" "That we spend time here, some weekends, holidays. That Ethan has a place to be a child, and I can learn to be a father." "What about your work?" "I'll figure it out. Ethan's right. I'm the owner. I can make different choices." Sarah considered the offer. It was tempting, but complicated. "And when Ethan grows up, when he doesn't need this anymore?" "I hope by then we've become a real family." At that moment, Ethan came running up. "Sarah, the hen penny laid 2 eggs. Can I get them?" "Of course, sweetheart." "Dad, come see." Richard stood up and followed his son, leaving Sarah alone with her thoughts. The proposal was surreal, but it also represented a chance to save her property and help a child she had grown to love. When Richard returned, there was dirt on his clothes and a smile on his face. "Ethan taught me how to collect eggs," he said proudly, holding up 2 eggs. "How was the experience?" "Terrifying. Those hens are aggressive." Sarah laughed. "It just takes practice." "Sarah," Ethan called as he ran back, "can Dad stay longer?" That's something you have to ask him. Can you, Dad? Just a few more days? Richard looked at Sarah, then at his son. I can try to arrange a few days, but I'll need to make some calls. Can you do that from here? I can. Ethan jumped with joy. Sarah, I'm going to teach Dad how to milk the cow. Are you sure he's ready for that? Sarah teased. I'll train him first. After Ethan ran off to play, Richard turned to Sarah. So, what do you think of the proposal? I need time to consider. Of course. But Sarah, I want you to know it's not just about the money. Ethan has changed here. He's happier than I've seen him in a long time. He just needed to feel safe and loved. And you gave him that. In a week, you've done what expensive therapists couldn't in months. Because I wasn't trying to fix him. He wasn't broken. Just sad. Richard nodded. You're right. I was seeing problems where there weren't any. That afternoon, Sarah watched father and son attempt to milk the cow. Richard was clearly uncomfortable, but Ethan patiently guided him. There was something touching about the role reversal, the son caring for the father. Like this, Dad. Gently. She doesn't like it when you're nervous. How do you know what she likes? She tells me, Ethan replied seriously. Cows don't talk, Ethan. Yes, they do. Just in a different way. Sarah taught me how to listen. Richard glanced at Sarah with an amused expression. Seems my son has become an expert in animal communication. He has a gift for it, Sarah agreed. Children often do. I never did. It's not too late to learn. That evening at dinner, Ethan made a revelation that changed everything. Dad, I don't want to go to Switzerland anymore. I figured that, son. But I also don't want to go home. Can I stay here with Sarah? The question visibly shook Richard. Ethan, this isn't our home. But it could be, couldn't it? You said you can buy anything. It's not that simple. Why not? Don't you like being here? Richard looked around the simple kitchen with its old furniture and modest decor. It's not about liking or disliking. It's about responsibilities. What responsibilities? Work, the company, the employees. And me? Aren't I your responsibility too? The question hit like a slap. Richard was silent for a moment. You're my most important responsibility. Then why do you always choose other things? Sarah stepped in before the conversation grew too heavy. Ethan, how about we show your dad the drawings you made of the animals? Good idea. Ethan ran off to fetch his sketches, leaving father and daughter alone. He's right, Richard said quietly. I always choose other things. But you can choose differently from now on. How? I have commitments, responsibilities, and a son who needs you. Richard sighed. Sarah, can I tell you something? Of course. When Jennifer passed, I panicked. I didn't know how to take care of Ethan alone. So, I did what I knew how to do. I worked harder to give him more things. Did it work? Quite the opposite. The more I worked, the more distant he became, and the more distant he became, the harder I worked. A vicious cycle. Exactly. And when he started having trouble at school, crying for no reason, I thought maybe it would be better for him to stay away from me. Because you blamed yourself. Because I didn't know how to be a father without Jennifer. Sarah finally understood the complexity of the situation. Richard wasn't a neglectful father out of malice, but out of fear and insecurity. Richard, can I ask you a personal question? Go ahead. Do you miss your wife or the role she played? The question caught him off guard. What do you mean? Do you miss her as a person or as the one who took care of Ethan for you? Richard was silent for a long time. I think both. But maybe more the role she played. She knew what to do. I never did. Because you never tried to learn. You let her do everything. Yes, and now I'm paying for it. You're not paying, you're learning. There's a difference. Ethan returned with a stack of drawings. Look, Dad, this is Ferdinand, the cow, and this is Penny, the feisty chicken. Richard examined the drawings carefully. They were good for an 8-year-old, detailed and expressive. You draw very well, Ethan. Sarah says I can be an artist when I grow up. You can be whatever you want. Really? Can I be a farmer? Richard hesitated. The idea of his son becoming a farmer went against all the plans he had for him. If that's what makes you happy, yeah. I want to take care of animals and grow things, like Sarah. Sarah saw the conflict on Richard's face. He was torn between his expectations and his son's dreams. Ethan, she interjected, you can be a farmer, and other things too. You can study, travel, see the world, and then decide what you want to do. But what if I change my mind? Then you change it. That's okay. Dad, did you always know you wanted to run a company? Richard thought about the question. Actually, no. When I was your age, I wanted to be a pilot. Really? Why didn't you? Because my father said it wasn't a serious profession, that I had to take care of the family business. And you obeyed. I did. Do you regret it? The question stirred something in Richard he hadn't expected. Sometimes I wonder how things would have been if I'd chosen differently. Then why do you want me to do the same thing? His son's simple logic left Richard speechless. Sarah saw the exact moment he realized the pattern he was repeating. You're right, Ethan, I don't want you to do the same thing. So I can choose. You can, when the time comes. Ethan smiled and hugged his father. Thanks, Dad. That night after Ethan fell asleep, Sarah and Richard talked on the porch. He made me think about a lot of things, Richard said. Kids have that ability. They see life more simply. Sarah, have you decided about my proposal? I'm still thinking. It's a big decision. I understand, but can I tell you something? These 2 days were the best I've spent with Ethan since Jennifer passed. Why? Because for the first time I was really present. No phone, no emails, no meetings, just the two of us. And how did that feel? Scary at first, then freeing. Sarah smiled. That's how Ethan feels here, free to be a child. And I felt free to be a father, without the pressure of having to know everything, do everything right. No one knows everything, we learn by doing. Sarah, can I ask you one more question? Of course. Do you think I can be a good father? The vulnerability in the question touched Sarah deeply. I think you already are. Being here, asking these questions, trying to understand Ethan, that's being a good father. It doesn't feel that way to me. Because you're trying to be perfect. Parents aren't perfect. They're present. Richard fell silent, gazing at the stars. My father was never present. Always working, always busy. I swore I'd be different. And you can be. But what if I fail? What if I let Ethan down? You will fail. All parents do. The point is to recognize when you fail and try again. How do you know so much about this? You don't have children. The question was innocent but stung. Sarah took a deep breath before answering. Because I've watched, and because I know what it's like to grow up not feeling loved by your parents. Your parents? My father was like yours, always working. My mother was always tired, always complaining. I grew up thinking I was a burden. And how did you move past that? I'm still working on it, but Ethan taught me one thing. It's possible to love a child unconditionally. It's possible to make them feel special. He loves you so much. And I love him, like he was my own. Sarah, what if we made that official? What do you mean? You could adopt Ethan, be the mother he needs. The suggestion caught Sarah completely off guard. Richard, think about it. You two love each other. I can provide financially, and maybe together, we can give Ethan the family he deserves. Are you talking about marriage? I'm talking about partnership, for Ethan's sake. Sarah was speechless. The idea was both tempting and terrifying. I need to think. Of course. Sorry if I was too direct. Don't apologize, it's just a lot to process. They fell silent, each lost in thought. Sarah was confused. In just a few days, her life had turned upside down. From a lonely farmer about to lose her property, she'd become central to the life of one of the country's wealthiest men and his son. Richard, can I ask you something? Of course. Let's take it slow. Ethan needs stability, not more sudden changes. You're right, I'm sorry, I'm not used to going slow. Well, you'll have to learn. Relationships don't work like business deals. I'm starting to see that. The next morning, Sarah woke to the smell of coffee and laughter from the kitchen. She found Richard attempting pancakes while Ethan gave instructions. No, Daddy, not like that. You have to stir slowly. I am stirring slowly. Even slower. Sarah chuckled at the scene. Good morning, you two. Good morning, Sarah, they chimed together. We're making you breakfast, Ethan announced proudly. Are you now? I'm supervising, Ethan explained. Daddy's learning. How's the experience going? Sarah asked Richard. Humiliating. An 8-year-old cooks better than I do. That's because you never tried before. True. I always had people to do this. Not anymore, Ethan said. Here on the farm, everyone does everything. I'm noticing. The pancakes were a little lopsided, but they tasted good. Ethan ate heartily, praising his father's effort. Daddy, you're getting better. Thanks, son. Tomorrow, you can try scrambled eggs. Tomorrow? You're not leaving again, are you? The question caught Richard off guard. He glanced at Sarah, then at Ethan. I have some meetings. Can't you do them on the phone? Some, but not all. Ethan's disappointment was plain. Ethan, Sarah interjected, your father has responsibilities. He can't just drop everything. But he always leaves us. The remark was innocent, but sharp. Richard swallowed hard. Ethan, I promise I'll try to stay longer, but I need to sort some things out first. There's always something to sort out. This time is different. How? Richard looked to Sarah for help. Ethan, she said, how about we give your dad time to get things in order? If he says he'll come back, he will. Promise, Daddy? I promise. When? Next weekend, and I'll stay for 3 days. Ethan smiled. Can I teach you how to fish? You know how to fish? Sarah taught me yesterday, it's easy. Richard looked at Sarah with admiration. You know a lot of things. I learned out of necessity. After breakfast, it was time for Richard to leave. Ethan clung to him, clearly reluctant to let him go. Do you promise you'll come back? I promise. What if you forget? I won't forget. What if work is more important? It won't be. Ethan hugged him tightly. I love you, Dad. I love you too, son. Sarah watched the goodbye with a heavy heart. Father and son had reconnected, but there was still much work ahead. After the helicopter left, Ethan was quiet for the rest of the day. Sarah respected his silence, knowing he was processing his emotions. Sarah, he said that night at bedtime, do you really think Dad will come back? I think he'll try. What if he can't? Then we'll talk to him. Explain how you feel. What if that doesn't help? Sarah hugged the boy. Then we'll find another way, but it won't be necessary. Your father loves you very much. How do you know? Because I saw it in his eyes, and because he's trying to change. Change how? He's learning that being a father is more important than being a businessman. Ethan was silent for a few minutes. Sarah, do you like my dad? The question caught her off guard. He's a good person. He's trying his best for you. That's not what I asked. Sarah sighed. Children had a remarkable way of getting straight to the point. I'm still getting to know him better, but I think I could like him. And will you marry him? Ethan, that's very complicated. Why? You both like me. I like both of you. We could be a family. It's not that simple. Why not? Sarah didn't know how to explain the complexities of adult relationships to an 8-year-old. Because marriage is a serious thing. It takes love, trust, companionship, but you're both good people, can't you learn to love each other? The simplicity of the question made Sarah smile. Maybe, but it takes time. How much time? I don't know, every case is different. Ethan thought for a moment. Sarah, can I ask you something? Of course. Are you alone because you want to be, or because you haven't found the right person? The question stirred something unexpected in Sarah. A little of both, I think. And now, do you still want to be alone? Sarah looked at the child who had changed her life in just a few days. I don't know. Maybe not. Then you can try, with Dad. Ethan, at least try. If it doesn't work out, you can go back to being friends. The child's logic was hard to argue with. Sarah kissed his forehead. I'll think about it, okay? Okay, but think fast. Why? Because I really like it here, and I want us to be a real family. That night, Sarah lay awake thinking about their conversation. Ethan had touched on points she'd been avoiding. Yes, she'd been alone for a long time. Yes, she'd grown used to solitude. But he'd also shown her she was capable of loving and being loved. During the week, Sarah and Ethan kept to their routine, but the boy talked constantly about his father. It was clear the visit had meant a lot to him. Sarah, Dad called. He did, when? Just now. He said he misses me and that he's arranging things to come back this weekend. That's good. And he asked about you. What did he ask? If you were okay. If you were taking care of yourself too, not just me. Sarah was touched by the concern. And what did you say? That you get sad sometimes, when you think I'll leave. Ethan, it's true. I've seen you cry when you think I'm not looking. Sarah sighed. It was impossible to hide anything from an observant child. Yes, I do get sad. I've gotten used to having you here. Then why don't you tell Dad you want me to stay? Because it's not that simple. You always say that, but when I was really little, things were simple. If I wanted something and it was good for me, I'd ask. And did it work? Not always, but sometimes, yes. On Friday, a day before Richard's promised visit, Sarah got an unexpected call. Sarah, it's Richard. Hello, is everything okay? Not really. There's a problem at the company, a crisis I need to handle personally. Sarah felt her heart tighten. What about the weekend? I won't be able to make it. Can you explain it to Ethan? Richard? I know how this will sound to him. He's been waiting for you since Monday. I tried, Sarah. I swear I tried to rearrange everything, but work is more important. That's not it. Then what is? Silence on the other end of the line. If I don't fix this, I could lose the company. And if I lose the company, I lose everything I can give Ethan. Ethan doesn't want your company, Richard. He wants you. I know that. Do you? Because your actions say otherwise. Sarah, please understand. You're the one who needs to understand. Ethan trusted you. You made a promise. And I'll keep it. Just later. When? When he's grown up and doesn't need you anymore? That's not fair. It's not fair to Ethan. He'll be devastated. Explain to him that, no. If you're not coming, you explain it to him yourself. Sarah hung up angrily. She had started to believe Richard had changed, but at the first sign of trouble, he'd gone back to his old ways. Sarah, who was that? Ethan asked, appearing in the living room. Your dad. Did he confirm he's coming tomorrow? Sarah looked at the hopeful boy and felt her heart break. He wants to talk to you. She called Richard back and handed the phone to Ethan. Hi, Dad. Excited to come tomorrow? Sarah watched the boy's face gradually fall as he listened to his father's explanation. Oh, I see. Okay. When then? You don't know? Okay. Bye. Ethan hung up and stood frozen in the middle of the room. Ethan. He's not coming, the boy said flatly. He has to work. Did he say when he can come? He said he doesn't know. Depends on work. Ethan went upstairs without another word. Sarah followed and found him lying on his bed, staring at the ceiling. Want to talk? There's nothing to talk about. He'll always choose work. Ethan... Sarah, can I ask you something? Of course. Don't defend him. I know you want to help me, but don't defend him this time. The maturity in Ethan's voice shocked her. He'd lost a bit of his innocence in that moment. Okay, I won't defend him. Thank you. Sarah spent the rest of the day trying to cheer Ethan up, but he was clearly shaken. That night, she made a decision. She called Richard. "Sarah, we need to talk. If it's about Ethan, it's about you. You need to choose, Richard." "Choose what?" "Between being a father or a businessman. You can't be both the way you're doing it." "Sarah, you don't understand the pressure." "I do, and I know you're afraid." "Afraid of what?" "Of failing as a father. So you'd rather fail as a businessman because it's easier to accept." Silence. "Sarah, Ethan lost his trust in you today, and it's the last time he'll trust you. I can earn it back. Can you? How? By promising again and breaking it again? I'll fix this and... When, Richard? When?" "As soon as possible." "That's not an answer. Ethan needs certainty, not possibilities." "What do you want me to do? Abandon everything?" "I want you to be man enough to admit you can't be a father." "Sarah, and if you can't, let Ethan stay with me, officially." "What do you mean?" "Give me custody. I'll take care of him. You'll provide. Everyone's happy. You're being cruel. I'm being realistic. Ethan doesn't deserve to keep waiting for a father who never shows up." Sarah hung up again and went to check on Ethan. He was asleep, but there were dried tears on his face. She kissed his forehead and made a decision that would change everything. The next morning, Ethan was quiet during breakfast. "Sarah, can I ask you something?" "Of course, sweetheart. If Dad doesn't want to take care of me, can you be my real mom?" The question moved her deeply. "Ethan, not pretend. For real. With papers and everything. You'd want that? I'd love it. You really love me." "I do. More than anything in the world. So can we try? Let's see what we can do." That afternoon, Sarah received an unexpected visit. A luxury car pulled up in front of the house, but it wasn't Richard who stepped out. It was an elegant woman in her 60s. "Mrs. Miller?" "Yes. Who are you?" "Elizabeth Bennet, Richard's mother." Sarah was surprised. She didn't know Richard had a living mother. "How can I help you?" "I'd like to talk about my grandson." Sarah invited her inside. Elizabeth Bennet was a commanding woman, but had kind eyes. "Where's Ethan?" "In the backyard, playing." "May I see him?" "Of course." Through the window, Elizabeth watched Ethan tending to the chickens. "He looks happy." "He is happy here." "Richard told me about the situation and about you." "What did he say?" "That he found a woman who managed in days what he couldn't in months. Make Ethan smile." Sarah didn't know how to respond. "Mrs. Miller, may I be frank with you?" "Of course. My son is an idiot." The statement startled Sarah. "Excuse me?" "Richard inherited his father's inability to appreciate what he has. He's repeating the same mistakes. You came here to meet the woman my grandson loves more than his own father." Elizabeth watched Ethan through the window again. "He talked about you for 2 hours yesterday. Sarah this, Sarah that, said you're the best person in the world. He's a special boy. He is. And my son doesn't deserve him." The words were harsh, but Sarah didn't argue. "Mrs. Bennet, Elizabeth, call me Elizabeth." "Elizabeth, why are you telling me this?" "Because I want to make you an offer." "What kind of offer?" "I want you to keep Ethan. Officially." "What do you mean?" "Full custody. I'll cover all expenses and you take care of him emotionally." "And Richard?" "Richard will have to learn to live with the consequences of his choices." Sarah was shocked by the proposal. "Elizabeth, I can't accept that. Ethan loves his father." "He does, but he's hurting. And I won't let my grandson go through what Richard did." "What happened to Richard?" Elizabeth sighed. "His father was the same. Always working, always busy. Richard grew up feeling like an obligation, not a gift. And now he's repeating the pattern." "Exactly. And Ethan will grow up with the same scars if nothing changes." "But taking Ethan from his father, it's not taking. It's saving. Richard can visit whenever he wants, but Ethan needs stability." Sarah considered the offer. It was tempting but drastic. "Elizabeth, can I think about it?" "Of course. But don't take too long. Ethan needs certainty. Just then, Ethan ran into the house. Sarah, who's the lady? She's your grandmother, sweetheart. Your dad's mom. Ethan stopped and looked at Elizabeth curiously. Grandma? Hello, my love. How are you? Good. Did you come to take me away? No. I came to get to know you better. Ethan stepped closer slowly. You look like Dad. That's what they say. Do you work a lot too? Elizabeth smiled. Not anymore. Now I only do things that make me happy. Like what? Like meeting my grandson. Ethan grinned and sat beside Elizabeth. Want to see my drawings? I'd love to. Sarah watched them talk and noticed how easily Ethan connected with his grandmother. Elizabeth had the same ease with children as Sarah. Ethan, Elizabeth said after looking at the drawings, you really like being here, don't you? I do. It's the best place in the world. Why? Because Sarah truly loves me, and because I can be myself. And your father, do you miss him? Ethan hesitated before answering. I do, but he never has time for me. What if he had more time? He always says he will, but he never does. Elizabeth looked at Sarah with a meaningful expression. Ethan, what if you could stay here forever with Sarah? Would you like that? I'd love to, Ethan replied without hesitation. But Daddy won't let me. What if he did? Really? He would let me. It's possible. Ethan looked at Sarah with shining eyes. Is it true, Sarah? Can I stay? Sarah felt the weight of responsibility. Ethan, this is a very important decision. You need to think carefully. I already have. I want to stay here, with you. Elizabeth smiled. Then let's talk about it. That night, after Ethan fell asleep, Sarah and Elizabeth spoke at length. He's an amazing child, Elizabeth said. He really is. Smart, affectionate, resilient. And unhappy with his father. Not unhappy, frustrated, he loves Richard, but he can't take the lack of attention anymore. Exactly how Richard was with his own father. Elizabeth, do you think Richard can change? Honestly, I don't know. He's always been stubborn. Once he makes up his mind, it's hard to change it. Even if the idea is bad for him? Especially then. Sarah sighed. This is a very difficult decision. Sarah, can I tell you something? Of course. In 2 hours of talking, Ethan told me more about his life here than Richard has told me about him in years. Children like to share when they feel safe. Exactly. And Ethan feels safe with you in a way he never has with Richard. Elizabeth, I'm not trying to convince you. I'm just giving you information to help you decide. What if I agree and Richard fights it? He will fight it, but deep down, he'll be relieved. Relieved? Not having to carry the guilt of being a bad father. Elizabeth's observation made Sarah think, would it really be better for everyone if she kept Ethan? Elizabeth, can I ask you a personal question? Of course. Why do you care so much about this? Ethan has other relatives. Because I blame myself for what Richard has become. What do you mean? I let my husband raise Richard the same way he was raised. Without affection, without presence. I thought it was the right way. And now? Now I see Richard repeating the same mistakes. And I won't let Ethan go through that. Sarah understood Elizabeth's motivation. It was an attempt to correct past mistakes. What if Richard decides to change, really change? Then that would be wonderful. But until that happens, Ethan needs stability. Aren't you being too hard on your son? Elizabeth thought for a moment. Sarah, how long have you known Ethan? A week and a half. And in a week and a half, you've made him smile, feel loved, and develop trust. Richard had 8 years and couldn't do that. Richard has been through losses, and so has Ethan. He lost his mother and practically lost his father, but he can still love and trust when someone gives him attention. Sarah knew Elizabeth was right, but she still felt like she was making an irreversible decision. Elizabeth, if I agree, how would it work? You'd have full custody. I'd set up a fund for Ethan's education and needs. This farm would be paid off and renovated, and Richard could visit whenever he wanted. It sounds like you've thought of everything. I have. ever since Richard told me about you. What if Ethan changes his mind? Then we'll talk again. But for now, he's happy here. The next morning, Elizabeth said goodbye to Ethan with a promise to return soon. Grandma, did you like it here? I loved it. It's a special place. It's because Sarah makes everything special. Elizabeth looked at Sarah with a smile. I'm sure she does. After Elizabeth left, Ethan asked the question Sarah had been expecting. Sarah, is it true I can stay here forever? Ethan, that's a very serious decision. It means you wouldn't live with your father anymore. But can he come visit me? Of course. And would you be my real mum? If you wanted me to... I do, Ethan shouted, jumping with joy. Ethan, are you sure? Your father will be very sad. The boy stopped jumping and grew serious. Sarah, can I tell you a secret? Of course. I think Dad will actually be relieved. He doesn't know how to take care of me, and that makes him sad too. Ethan's words echoed what Elizabeth had said. Maybe this really was best for everyone. Ethan, if you stay here, you'll have to study, do homework, take on responsibility. I know, and I want that. And you can't change your mind all the time. I won't. This is my home now. Sarah hugged the boy, feeling she had made a decision. That afternoon, she called Elizabeth. Elizabeth, it's Sarah. Hi, dear. Have you decided? I have. I'll take care of Ethan. Are you sure? I am. He's happy here. And I'm happy with him too. Wonderful. I'll arrange all the paperwork. Elizabeth, does Richard know about your proposal? Not yet. I'll talk to him today. How do you think he'll react? Badly at first, but he'll understand it's what's best for Ethan. Sarah hoped Elizabeth was right. That night, Ethan was too excited to sleep. Sarah, can I plant tomatoes tomorrow? Yes, we'll make a big garden. And can I have a dog? We can talk about that. And will I go to school in town? We'll see what the best option is. Ethan paused. Sarah, are you happy? Very happy, sweetheart. Even though you have to take care of me. Especially because of that. Ethan smiled and snuggled into Sarah's arms. Sarah, can I call you Mom now? You can. Thank you, Mom. The word filled Sarah's heart with joy. She finally had the child she'd always wanted. The next day, Sarah was preparing lunch when she heard the sound of a helicopter. Ethan ran to the window. It's Dad! He shouted excitedly. Sarah's stomach tightened. The conversation ahead would be difficult. Richard stepped out of the helicopter with a dark expression. He was clearly angry. Dad! Ethan ran to hug him. Hi, son. Richard hugged Ethan, but his eyes were fixed on Sarah. Did you come for the weekend? I came to talk to you about something important. Ethan looked at Sarah, sensing the tension. About what, Dad? About you staying here forever. Ethan smiled. Grandma told you? I want to stay. Ethan, go play outside for a bit. I need to talk to Sarah. Okay. As soon as Ethan left, Richard turned to Sarah. How could you? He asked with controlled anger. How could I what? Turn my son against me. I didn't turn him against anyone. Ethan made his own choice. He's 8. He can't make decisions like that. He can decide where he feels loved and safe. He feels loved with me too. Does he? When was the last time you spent a whole day with him without talking about work? Richard fell silent. Sarah, I admit I've made mistakes. They're not mistakes, Richard. It's a pattern. You'll always choose work. I can change. Can you? Like when you promised to come for the weekend and didn't? That was an emergency. For you, everything's an emergency. Except Ethan. Richard ran a hand through his hair, clearly frustrated. Sarah, my mother has no right to decide about my son. She didn't decide. She offered an option. And Ethan chose. Influenced by you. Influenced by his own experience. He knows where he's loved. I love my son. I know you do. But you don't know how to show it. And Ethan got tired of waiting. Richard sat heavily in the chair. Sarah, if I promise I'll change. How many times have you promised that? This time is different. Why? because now I know I could lose him. Richard, you've already lost him. Ethan doesn't trust you anymore. I can earn his trust back. How? By promising again and failing again? Richard looked out the window where Ethan was playing with the chickens. He seems happy here. He is, for the first time in a long while. And what about me? What's left for me? The certainty that your son is well cared for. But I want to take care of him. Then why haven't you done it until now? The question echoed in the kitchen's silence. Richard knew Sarah was right. Sarah, can I ask you something? What? Give me a chance. One last chance. What kind of chance? Let me stay here for a week. No work, no phone, nothing. Just me and Ethan. Sarah was surprised by the proposal. Richard, if by the end of the week Ethan still wants to stay with you, I'll accept it. But if he changes his mind, what about your work? To hell with work. I can lose everything, but I can't lose my son. Sarah studied Richard's face. For the first time, she saw real desperation, not just frustration. 1 week? 1 week. No outside interference. And if Ethan doesn't want to? Then I'll respect his decision. Sarah considered the proposal. It was risky, but maybe the only way to settle things for good. I'll talk to Ethan. Thank you. Sarah called Ethan inside. Sweetheart, your father has a proposal for you. What proposal? Richard crouched down to his son's level. Ethan, I want to stay here with you for a whole week. No work, no going out, just the two of us. Really? Really? But if at the end of the week you still want to stay only with Sarah, I'll accept it. Ethan looked at Sarah, then at his father. What if I want to stay with both of you? The question caught the adults off guard. What do you mean, honey? Sarah can be my mom, and you can be my dad. We can be a family. Richard glanced at Sarah with uncertainty. Ethan, that's complicated. Why? You both love me. I love both of you. Sarah can teach you how to be a dad, and you can teach her other things. The simplicity of Ethan's suggestion made sense in a way adult complications didn't. Ethan, Sarah said, that would mean your father would have to change a lot. I know, but he can do it. Right, Dad? Richard looked at his son, then at Sarah. Ethan's right. Maybe we can try together. Sarah's heart raced. Richard. Sarah, I know it's a lot to ask, but you could teach me how to be a father. And I could give you the family you've always wanted. What about work? I'll find a way to balance it, or hire someone to help. The important thing is being present. Ethan jumped with joy. Does that mean we'll be a family? Sarah looked at father and son, seeing hope in both their eyes. We can try, slowly, one day at a time. Thank you, Richard said, and Sarah saw tears in his eyes. The following week was revealing. Richard truly turned off his phone and dedicated himself fully to being present. He learned to milk cows, plant seeds, cook simple meals, and most importantly, to listen to Ethan. Dad, did you know chickens have different personalities? Ethan told him one afternoon. I didn't. Tell me about them. And Richard listened, really listened, as Ethan described every animal on the farm with details only an observant child would notice. Sarah watched the transformation with cautious optimism. Richard was genuinely trying, but she knew the real test would come when he had to return to the real world. On the fourth day, Ethan asked a direct question. Dad, are you really going to change? Or is it just because you want me back? The honesty of the question surprised Richard. Ethan, can I tell you something? You can. I'm changing because I realized I was losing the most important person in my life. Me? You. And because I understood that working so much doesn't make me happy if you're not well. And if I get better, will you go back to working too much? Richard thought carefully before answering. I'll still work, yes, but in a different way. With limits. With time for you. How? I'll hire people to help me. I'll work fewer hours. And I'll bring you with me sometimes when possible. Ethan smiled. Can I see your company? Of course you can. And you can give me your opinions too. Really? About what? About everything. You have good ideas. Sarah watched the conversation, sensing something fundamental had changed between father and son. On the last day of the week, Richard had a surprise. "Sarah, Ethan, I have a proposal for you." "What proposal?" they asked together. "How about we buy a bigger farm near the city, a place where Ethan can have the rural life he loves, but where I can work from home a few days a week?" Ethan lit up. "Really? Our own farm?" "Ours," Richard confirmed, looking at Sarah. "If Sarah agrees to be our partner." "Partner how?" "In everything. In raising Ethan, in managing the farm, in building a family." Sarah felt her heart race. "Richard, this is very serious. It's the most serious thing in my life. Sarah, this week showed me I can be a father, that I can be happy in a simple way, and that you're essential for that. I don't know. You don't have to decide now, but think about it. Think about the family we could be." Ethan hugged them both. "Please, Sarah, say yes." Sarah looked at those two people who had completely changed her life. "Can I think about it a little?" "Of course," Richard said. "But know that, no matter your answer, I'll keep my promise to Ethan. I'll be present in his life." That night, Ethan was euphoric. "Sarah, you're going to say yes, right?" "I'm still thinking, sweetheart. But you two love me, and I love you. Isn't that enough?" "It's not just about love, Ethan. It's about compatibility, life goals." "What goals?" Sarah tried to explain in a way a child would understand. "It's about wanting the same things for the future." "And you don't?" "I don't know yet. Can I help you decide?" "How?" "By making a list of the good and bad points." Sarah smiled. Ethan's pragmatism sometimes surprised her. "All right. What good points do you see?" "Dad changed. You're happy with me. I'm happy with both of you. We could have a beautiful farm. I could have siblings." "Ethan." "It's true, I've always wanted siblings." "That's very complicated. Why?" "Dad can give you kids if you want." Sarah turned red. "Ethan, those are adult conversations." "Okay, but it's a good point." Sarah shook her head, amused by his simplicity. "And bad points?" Ethan thought seriously. "If Dad can't keep his promises, if you argue too much, if you don't like living near the city, those are valid points." "But we can solve everything by talking, right?" "Not everything can be solved by talking, sweetheart. But we can try." Sarah hugged Ethan, impressed by his emotional maturity. "You're very wise for an 8-year-old. Sarah taught me to think before deciding." The next morning, Sarah woke up with a decision. She found Richard in the kitchen, making coffee. "Good morning." "Good morning. Did you sleep well?" "Sort of. I kept thinking about your proposal." Richard stopped what he was doing. "And?" "I accept, but with conditions." "What conditions?" "First, Ethan is always the priority. If you start slipping again, I walk away." "I agree." "Second, we want a farm that's ours, not just your project. We're part of the decisions." "I agree." "Third, marriage only after a year of dating. I need to be sure we work as a couple, not just as a family." Richard smiled. "I agree. Anything else?" "Fourth, you'll go to therapy to learn how to handle being a workaholic. I don't want you falling back into old habits." "I agree." "And last, if it doesn't work out, we separate like civilized adults. Ethan shouldn't suffer because of our decisions." "I agree to everything." Sarah took a deep breath. "Then let's try." Richard stepped closer and hugged her. "Thank you for giving me this chance." "Don't thank me yet. The hard part is just beginning." "I know, but now I know it's worth trying." Ethan appeared in the kitchen at that moment. "Good morning, you're hugging." "We are," said Sarah, "and I have news for you." "What news?" "We're going to try being a family, for real." Ethan shouted with joy and ran to join the hug. "Finally, now we'll have the best family in the world." Sarah looked at Richard over Ethan's head and saw hope and determination in his eyes. It wouldn't be easy, but maybe they could build something beautiful together. 6 months later, They had settled on a larger farm outside Lexington. Richard had kept his promises. He'd hired a management team for the company, limited his work hours, and was going to therapy regularly. "Sarah," Ethan shouted one afternoon, "come see what Dad made." Sarah stepped outside and found Richard building a treehouse. "It's looking nice," she remarked. "Dad said I can sleep here on weekends," Ethan said excitedly. "If your mom allows it," Richard corrected. The word mom still made Sarah's heart skip. Officially, she'd adopted Ethan 3 months earlier. "Can I, Mom?" Ethan asked. "Let's see how it turns out when it's finished." That night, after Ethan fell asleep, Sarah and Richard talked on the porch. "How are you feeling?" he asked. "Good. Happy. Even with all the changes. Especially because of them." Richard took Sarah's hand. "Sarah, I know we still have 6 months until the year is up, but can I ask you something?" "Go ahead." "Can you picture me as your husband? For real?" Sarah looked at the man beside her. In 8 months, Richard had transformed. He was still successful in business, but he'd learned to balance work and family. "I can, yes." "Really? You're not just saying that to make me happy?" "Richard, if I just wanted to please you, I'd have said yes the first time you asked." "That's true. You've changed, really changed, and Ethan is thriving. Thanks to you. Thanks to us, our partnership." Richard smiled. "Is that what we are? Partners? Among other things." "What other things?" Sarah smiled. "You'll have to figure that out." On their first anniversary, Richard planned a surprise. Sarah and Ethan were invited to a special picnic in the pasture. "Why so formal?" Sarah asked. "You'll see," Ethan said, clearly in on the surprise. When they arrived, they found a table decorated with flowers from the farm and a homemade cake. "Richard, this is beautiful. Ethan helped me set it up. And it was his idea too," Ethan added. Richard knelt before Sarah. "Sarah Miller, a year ago, you didn't just save my son, you saved me too." "Richard, let me finish," he said, pulling a box from his pocket. "You taught me that family isn't about money or status. It's about love, presence, and commitment." Sarah felt her eyes fill with tears. "Will you marry me? Not because Ethan needs a mother, but because I need you as my partner for life." Sarah looked at Ethan, beaming, then at Richard. "Yes, I'll marry you." Ethan cheered and ran to hug them both. "Now we're a real family." "We always were," Sarah said. "Now it's just going to become official." The end of the story. So, dear listener, what did you think of this story of perseverance and love? Did you get emotional, along with Sarah, Ethan, and Richard? Tell us in the comments which part touched you the most and whether you believe love can truly transform people. If you enjoyed the story, don't forget to leave your like and subscribe to the channel so you don't miss other heartwarming stories like this one. Your participation means so much to us.